Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Mambas Legacy podcast. It's Cam, and today I'm joined here by Jacob from the 916 Kingdom podcast. Say what's up, Jacob.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for giving me the chance to come on with you guys again. Had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun last time, and ready to talk some NBA stuff with you.
Of course, and I'm super ready to get started. Before we get into it, would you like to tell us a bit about where we can find your content and give yourself a little shout out?
Yeah, definitely. I'm Jacob Robles. I am the host of the 916 Kingdom podcast. You can find us on Twitter at 916_Kingdom. We cover all things Sacramento Kings, which isn't the funnest thing in the world, given how the Kings have been the last 16 years. Our podcast is a weekly episode podcast, and we can be found on iTunes and Spotify. So if you're a Kings fan out there, yeah, definitely give us a look.
Thank you, Jacob. And I mean, it definitely has been a struggle for you guys the past few years, but I guess one of the small bright spots more recently is the fact that you guys did in fact beat the Los Angeles Lakers yesterday. So that was something to be happy with. The second half Kings were on fire, and the Lakers defense was just not it, especially in the second half. What are your thoughts on that game?
It sucks in situations like this, being a Kings fan, is like when they get good wins against Los Angeles, you're like, oh, that's great, but why couldn't we beat all the other crappy teams in the league? So like, it makes you mad and sad. That's how it is pretty much being a Sacramento Kings fan. But, like, no disrespect to you guys' podcast, but I was born to like hate LA, but at the same time, I give respect to their legendary moments in the past. So it's always fun when they beat LA, but it's definitely nothing I'm going to get carried away on, as I still think this team has a lot of issues to figure out.
Definitely. I mean, you guys, this win is a small bright spot, but at the same time, you guys still are only sitting at 17-27, but at least you got to enjoy the good things, right?
No, definitely. It's always fun when there's just your arena's covered in the opposite fans of the team, and then you can send them all home. So that was definitely a bright spot.
Definitely. And when I get the opportunity to host Mambas Legacy myself, I'm actually a Rockets fan. So when I get the mic, even though that's our name, that's all Max for you. So I got to get the Lakers fans into perspective who are watching this.
No, that's definitely cool. Rockets have a bright future. I'm really excited to see them in the coming years.
Definitely. And in this game, I feel like it's kind of concerning for the Lakers, being the fact that LeBron James, not just in this game, but overall, he's been playing some really good basketball. I mean, in this game, he still put up 30, even though it was not the best shooting night for him. But I think it's kind of concerning when you look at the fact that the one night that LeBron kind of isn't on his A game, you see that the Lakers are losing to this Kings team. I mean, Russ, he's failing again. He is just on an all-time low, it feels like. And I know he's been denying it for quite some time, but I think it's time for him to really accept it, because he's definitely not doing what he needs to do for this Lakers team.
No, yeah, I definitely agree on that. The biggest issue I've seen with the Lakers this year is I feel like, LeBron went into the season bringing every single piece he wanted over the offseason and, expected it to mesh together right away. Like, there's no doubt that the Lakers have tremendous talent. Unfortunately, they're dealing with, injuries with Anthony Davis. But if you look at it from another perspective, the majority of this team wasn't here last year. Caruso's gone, Harrell's gone, Kuzma's gone. I think this team was in dire need of a mesh period where they needed to learn how to play with each other. Because if you look at LeBron James, you look at Russell Westbrook, never played with each other. Russell Westbrook's more of a I'm gonna do it myself type of guy. LeBron could be like that sometimes. So can Carmelo. So, I just think this team wasn't just, like I said, they just needed a great period to learn how to play with each other. But unfortunately, injuries have struck, health and safety protocols have struck. So it just hasn't been all kind of Lakers. But, I really do think they're going to figure out a way to figure it all out by the time playoffs come.
Definitely. I feel like this period is that mesh period. It's kind of concerning. I feel like that it's still kind of going, but I was one of those people who, like, at the beginning when the Lakers made all these moves, I was kind of like, you can't just take every piece in the bag, every star, and expect just to complete the puzzle like that. And I think a good example, and I was telling Max about this actually, is that it kind of reminds me of college ball when you see sometimes the teams were the smaller schools or smaller programs, and those guys are staying at the program for 4 years, opposed to the universities where it's always one and done. Sometimes those teams that have been building for 4 years, even though they might not have as much talent, they're the teams who go farther because they've been meshing and they've really grown together. And I think that the Lakers team right now is really, really lacking that.
Oh no, without a doubt. And I think that's something that people, fail to take into consideration. They're like, we're just going to put all these all-stars on one team and they're going to rule the league. A lot of people look at what Golden State did with Kevin Durant, but I don't think people took into context is that everybody except Kevin Durant had been with each other since they got drafted in the league on the Warriors. So yeah, I just think the whole big problem with the Lakers this year so far is just learning how to play with each other and learning how to play as a team, because we look at a lot of history with these players that they got over the offseason. Like a lot of them have just had those careers where they're just, I'm going to do it myself. And that's just, it's not going to work when they're all on one team. But, they got on that little win streak there. And I really think they're going to be coming around the corner really soon to figure out how to play at a consistent level and get back to where they want to be.
Definitely. And I'm sure Lakers fans are hoping so, because I've definitely heard the frustration kind of brewing over that fan base. And and you mentioned the Warriors there, and I'd like to go into our next topic about the Golden State Warriors and the fact that Klay is back. And that is great news. That game where he did return was one of the highest rated games. And I think that just shows the impact Klay is going to have. This is going to be quite the event for him to try to overcome with both the ACL and Achilles injury. We'll see how he holds up long term, but so far for being out for so long, he's definitely had a pretty good start. And I think more than anything, he's going to bring the energy, kind of like reunite the old Warriors. I mean, they've been doing good, and I think just bringing Klay back, no matter how well he performs, is just going to be a nice little jolt for this team. What are your thoughts on that?
Without a doubt, we all know Klay Thompson. I don't think much more needs to be said about the man. It's been a very long 2 years. Like I had just graduated high school when he got injured. I'm like almost 3 years out of high school. That really puts things into perspective on how long it's really been. And something like being a Kings fan, everyone knows that he dropped 37 points in a quarter against us. I wasn't really the biggest Klay fan. I hated the Warriors when they were on their run, but over time, you take time to reflect and see just how truly great that team was. It made me excited to see him come back, and I don't think that should be a difference for anyone else. I was truly excited when he came back. It was definitely a little scare when he had that dunk and he landed a little cricket on his leg. My heart kind of dropped right there, but it was so great to see him back. And I think, as he gets back into game shape form and gets into the rhythm of the game again, I think the Warriors are without a doubt going to be at least the Western Conference Finals contestant.
Definitely. And it's nice to see the Warriors kind of be back this season after kind of everything kind of fell apart with both Durant and Klay going down in that finals. And then, of course, Durant going his way, Klay being out for so long, then getting re-injured again with another injury. It's definitely been a long road for them. But even before Klay's return, what they've been able to do this year kind of has been fitting for him to come back, because it's kind of like a revival of the old Warriors in a way. One last hurrah. Curry's been really great earlier in the season, had a lot of MVP talks, and of course he still does, even though he's fallen a bit on that ladder. But I think it's just a great time for the Warriors, and they're definitely going to go far this season.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And one of the biggest things that I enjoyed observing while Klay was injured was because all the talk was now it's finally time for Curry to get exposed. It's finally time to see him without Klay, why he's not the greatest of all time or like one of the top 5 players in the league. And then seeing him overcome all of that talk and leading the Warriors to a play-in spot and almost winning MVP. I thought he should have won MVP last year, in my honest opinion. But that was truly something incredible to watch and see him overcome the criticism, even though he's done everything possible in the book. So yeah, that was definitely one great thing. And I'm just glad, we're able to see both those guys on the court again, because it's been too long.
Definitely. And it will be good to see how far they go this year. And another team that I would like to talk about are the Grizzlies, and they are another very hot Western Conference team on a 10-game win streak. That might be 11 by the time we upload this podcast. They're currently playing the Timberwolves, so we'll see how that game finishes up. But the Grizzlies have really been impressive this year. They're doing great with rebounds, which those second chance points have been really vital, have a really good defense going. And Ja, he has been amazing, averaging 29.4, 53, shooting 53% from three. He has really stepped up this year. And I know Ja has been one to always say how great he is in the previous seasons. And I think he might finally have hit the mark this year.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And you see what the Grizzlies did this year, like when they finally went on that run this year, it was when Ja Morant went down with an injury. And thank God it wasn't a serious long-term injury. So the Grizzlies are a truly inspiring team, and gives me hope as a Kings fan that my team could turn this thing around in less than a year and a half like they just did. And, the Grizzlies just did common sense moves. They capitalized. They got Jared Allen in that trade for a little next to nothing. And that's been no, I'm sorry, not Jared Allen. It was a one trade. I completely blacked out there for a second. I might be completely wrong there, but they did get Steven, the Steven Adams for the Valanciunas trade. That was like, it's all about capitalizing on moves that are out there when they don't really take much to do, and like the value out there for those players like are not as high as you think they are. And like, it just takes one move and your team could turn around completely. And that's something, I want to see the Kings do, and what I've observed from the Grizzlies. And, John Morant's been on an absolute tear. And like you said, he's been always like, oh, I'm great. I'm top 5 in the league easily. And that irritated a lot of people. And they're like, this guy hasn't done crap. And then he comes right away and just completely takes over. So yeah, it's like, if I could sum it up in one word, it's been inspirational.
Definitely. And I think Ja, with the motivation he has for himself, he's definitely going to keep pushing this team. And in response to another point you made about how great the Grizzlies were able to do without Ja, I think a lot of people just jumped to the conclusion because, of course, when Ja came back for a short time, they weren't winning those games anymore. And people were like, oh my, Ja's not that good, or blah, blah, blah. He's the reason now that we're losing. And I don't think that was the case at all. I think it was just the fact that he was trying to rework himself and integrate himself back into that lineup. But I think that really shows that lineup was really able to evolve without Ja on the court. And I think that's what's made them even better now, that now you have someone like Ja re-entering your lineup and playing so well that other unit was really able to improve themselves. And I think that's going to be vital. The minutes they were all able to get and the work they were all able to do is going to be vital down the stretch when it comes to playoff time.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And that's the most important thing you can do, is to get everything to work as a collective unit for the playoff time. And, seeing the Grizzlies being that play-in team, they upset the Warriors last year in the play-in tournament, and seeing where they are now, it's truly fun to watch. And, people, could say whatever they want, and like they're taking advantage of like teams that are struck by COVID or anything else like that. And I'm like, well, that's what you got to do as an NBA team. You got to take advantage of the opportunities you get, because those opportunities may never come around again. So they're just doing their thing, and they ain't caring about what anybody is saying. And I think like they just beat the Warriors too. We were just talking about how the Warriors are going to probably be the main threat in the playoffs this year. So if you are going to sleep on Memphis in any way possible, I think you're going to be in for a rude awakening.
Definitely, that is for sure. I think these Grizzlies definitely have an opportunity to go pretty far with Ja propelling the way, and I think that they're definitely someone to watch out for.
Oh yeah, and I'm like I just it just irritates me as a Kings fan. Like, I just see this process all the time, with players taking these next steps, they get developed right, and then they just turn into these juggernauts in the league, and you're just like, why can't Sacramento figure this out? Why can't they take that next step like all these other teams are doing? Like, the majority of the players, like in the same draft class as De'Aaron Fox, were in the playoffs last year. And it gets really frustrating, but at the same time, it just gets really inspiring when I see teams turning around like that. And I just hope, Sacramento can follow the same path.
Definitely. And the Kings have always been one of those teams where I look at y'all, I look at the guys you have, and I always wonder, why hasn't it been you? Why isn't it? What are your thoughts on that and what the Kings are really missing at this time?
It's definitely the front office and ownership. They completely screw up the whole development part of putting this team together and putting them together in the right way. You know, we had our best season in 2018 and 19 from for the best season in like over a decade. And then we fired our coach, Dave Yeager, brought in Luke Walton, who I was not a fan of. And, you know, the whole way the Kings were playing that made them successful that one year just completely went away. And it was just a very perplexing move. They drafted Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic. And I'm not just going to sit here and say like, oh, yeah, that was a mistake. They should have capitalized on that. Because at the time I wanted Bagley over Luka, but like, you know, I'm not the front office guy. I didn't know all my stuff back then when that draft happened. So that's on ownership. They got to know, they got to see talent when they see talent. And, you know, having the only reason why they didn't choose Luka was because they didn't like his dad. That's just completely ridiculous to me. So, yeah, it just makes you shake your head nonstop on why this team can't figure it out. And honestly, if the Kings don't make playoffs this year, it's going to mean two things. It's going to mean we have the longest playoff drought in Major League sports history, and I don't think there's any saving of this core we have already set up. So it's definitely a time of uncertainty for the Sacramento Kings and Kings fans.
Definitely. You guys are going on, this will be your 16th year, correct?
Yes.
Oh man, that's got to be painful.
Yeah, I was in first grade the last time we made playoffs, and I still remember one of the games from that last series. So it's definitely a heartbreaker.
For sure, for sure. So hopefully you guys can figure it out, because like I was saying, I look at the guys you have and it's just really disappointing as even just a general NBA fan to not see them being utilized to the fullest. And I'm sure the guys you do have are probably going to start getting even more frustrated, because I'm sure they have to deal with that management on a daily basis. So that's probably not the most exciting thing to work around.
Yeah. And I definitely think some of the players there that we've had the last few years are just completely done. Like they don't want to put up with this anymore. Like Buddy Hield, for instance, like he was almost traded in the offseason to the Lakers. And, you know, I really thought that move should have happened. And, you know, it's just beyond frustrating. And there's definitely, you know, some things I think our GM could have done this offseason, you know, especially with the draft. You know, drafting Davion Mitchell, I'm not going to say was a complete bust, but I don't think he was needed for this team. So it just really makes me scratch my head on what this team has planned. And, you know, what do I have to look for? Because, you know, it takes toll on my podcast too. I feel like I'm talking about the same stuff every week, because it's just a broken record with this team.
That is for sure. I've definitely felt the pain trying to talk about the Rockets, and that's been a much shorter period of time for us. So I can only imagine how you are feeling over in Sacramento.
Oh yeah. Whenever somebody's like they go through 1 year of losing after they were good for 20 years, like I get very frustrated with that. So yeah, like I don't think anybody can really say they know what pain we're going through right now.
Definitely. So now I'd like to turn it over to the Eastern side of things to talk a bit about the fact that the Hawks have traded Cam Reddish to the Knicks. And that's something kind of notable, from the fact that it's hard to believe that a player like Cam Reddish would be available at this time, despite the Hawks just being in the Eastern Conference Finals this past season. Of course, things have not worked out, and quite disappointing to see, because I was really rooting for the Hawks last year after that run they made. But
oh yeah.
So what's your thoughts on that trade?
It didn't really shock me, because I did hear rumors, you know, all season long that, you know, Reddish wasn't really content in Atlanta. He wasn't really liking how he was boding well on the offensive end. I really wanted Sacramento to get involved in that deal. I like at least call in to see, because what he just went for, what was it, Kevin Knox and a first round protected pick. So
Yes.
like I just feel like that's something the Kings easily could have made work. I think Cam Reddish would really help out this team because they really need some help on the wing position. So it was definitely a shocker. Like I woke up this morning and I saw that on Twitter. I was like, wow, like I didn't expect him to get moved till the trade deadline, to be honest, because I think Cam Reddish is a very valuable asset. I think they could have got more for him, but like I just said in our last topic, like you need to capitalize on teams that are not going to value their like players like that. You need to swoop in and get in on those deals. At least like call the phone, call the GM and see what they say. And it just takes one move. And I think Reddish is going to help the Knicks out a lot.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting to see. And it's also going to be interesting to see how the Hawks go on the next few years and all of that, because once again, not the year for them. And we're going to have to see where they go from here. Because I mean, it's quite the fall to go from the Eastern Conference to having a 17-23 record at this point, and then going on to trade away a guy like Reddish. So we're definitely going to have to see how things end up on that end of things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so going into our last topic, I'd like to talk about the Portland Trailblazers and the fact that Dame is out. He's going to be out for a significant amount of time, and CJ McCollum's out with the lung injury. And you kind of see the Trailblazers being one of those teams where this year was really mattered to them as well, based on how they're going to go forward. They don't have a permanent GM right now. So as they hire that executive, it's definitely going to be interesting what they do when they come in. And I have a feeling that if things don't get turned around, there's definitely going to be a lot of moves made in Portland, because I feel like rebuilding might sound nice for them. They've had Dame for so many years now and just has not been successful. And I feel like a new GM coming in, that definitely would be a move to make. What are your thoughts on the situation in Portland?
Oh yeah, like I love Damian Lillard. I've loved him for a long time, and it hurts even more that we could have drafted him. We even told him we were going to draft him, so like that always stings me in the back of my head. But like I cherish loyalty more than anything else. And that guy talks about how much he's so loyal to Portland. He doesn't care if he doesn't win anything. He wants to stay there for the rest of his career. But I think it should be an equal interest on both sides for them to move on from each other. Lillard, you can get a substantial amount back for him. Some team would be willing to pay that price. And, Portland has taken, really bad decisions in getting Lillard the talent he needed to be successful over there. They were always just a playoff team that never went any further than the first or second round, couple of Western Conference final appearances. And it just sucks. It just sucks to see, such an incredible talent just not be able to go anywhere over there. So I hope, well, right now he's really injured and there's really talks about him being shut down for the rest of the season. But I think it would be definitely a good idea for both of those teams to move on from each other next year. But like at the same time, if he wants to stay, he doesn't really care, then what do you have to lose as Portland? Keep fighting every offseason to figure out something in some sort of way to give him the talent he needs to, make Portland into a championship contending team. So hopefully we see some sort of progress over there because, Damian Lillard, such a humble guy, California guy as well. You want to see him hoist that trophy, whether it's in Portland or somewhere else. And hopefully that chance gets brought to him sooner or later.
Definitely. It is kind of sad for him. I mean, he is a very, very loyal guy. And I think that is the reason that he is still on the Blazers. He wasn't one to act as many players we have seen in the league, especially in recent years, where they've acted up or held out or any of that type of thing, demanding a trade. That's definitely become a more common thing in recent years. But Dame definitely wasn't the guy to do that. And he still says that he's content with the team he has. And of course, he probably would like some improvements amongst the team, but he's content with being here and working with what they have for the time being. But now that I think he's out for this period of time, and I think the Blazers right now, they're sitting at about the 10th seed. I definitely think they're probably going to be falling in the coming weeks. So if they go much further down by any means, it's definitely going to be the opportunity, I feel like, where the time is just right to move on for him. And to be perfectly honest, I'm quite surprised he has made it this far. I remember way back in the end of last season, we were making a podcast talking about if Dame was going to be out and potential trade packages for him. And now he's still a Blazer. And I think that that's quite an interesting fate for that team.
Oh, it really is. It really is. And it blows you away because you don't really see that much often. Like players making it that far with such lack of success within the franchise. The teams are usually quick to just give up and hit the reset button. So, it really does blow you away about how long he has made it over there. And like I said, Damian Lillard is probably one of my top favorite guys in the league. I don't care where he's at. I just want him to get a shot at getting a championship because he more than deserves it. He's definitely paid his dues.
Definitely. I would like to thank you so much for coming on today, Jacob. It has been a lot of fun to have you here yet again. I have loved hearing about throughout the topics, how the pain you were feeling as a Kings fan. It definitely made this podcast even better. And I wish your team a lot of success, hopefully in the coming years.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me on. I've been paying attention to your guys' podcast ever since you guys asked me to come on the first time. You guys are doing a tremendous job. Keep up the great work. And hopefully you guys, make a name for yourself, because that's definitely the goal when we do podcasts like this. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. And have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. You too.